Hi friends, so for today's tutorial you're going to need to head over to thesteelmagnolia.com to download one of Nikki's free templates for the 16-ounce travel mug. As you can see, she has a couple here that you are free to use. We are going to use the 16-ounce travel mug, but I am going to click on the SVG file because I will be using design space for my Cricut. If you're using Silhouette, you're going to want to download the file right above. But basically, we are going to right click and save this SVG wherever you normally save your SVGs, and then we are going to upload it by bringing it into Design Space or Word or a Google Doc, because what you want to do is get this printed on printing paper so that you can use it as a stencil. There are a couple of ways that you can do this, so I'm going to show you the two ways that I've tried it. And one of them is by bringing the SVG file into Design Space as if you were going to cut it, and then just going ahead and cutting it on either a stencil vinyl so that you can use the backing of it. And the other option is to bring the same file into a Word document or Google Doc, and just make sure to crop out as much of the excess space as you can to keep only one of the files itself. Then what you'll want to do from here, or what I do to not waste, the other side, the other half of this paper, is I will copy and paste it so that I can have two different stencils. Now this is for the 16-ounce travel mug and it is sized accordingly. However, to get the same file to fit the 12-ounce morning mug, we will be making the length of the template longer. And I believe right at 11 is where you want it for the 12-ounce morning mug. So the height dimensions for the template will stay the same for both the 12-ounce morning mug and the 16-ounce travel mug. The only difference is that for the 12-ounce morning mug, we are going to make the length of this template 11 inches. So starting with the 16-ounce travel mug, I am going to show you how I got this little stencil, and I really just got it from the backing of a different vinyl. But the measurements that Nikki has on the website for this template literally fit perfectly and flush on the 16-ounce travel mug. So this clear transparent vinyl you see here is what's going to go on that 16-ounce travel mug. And on the 12-ounce morning mug, we are going to use this crayon pattern vinyl. You can find both of these vinyls over at Heidi's Etsy shop, which is North 80. I will have that linked in the description as well as a code for you to use. And so what you see me doing here is just showing you how it fits snug on the 12-ounce morning mug. It's the same template as the 16-ounce travel mug. That's where we got this template from. We just made it longer. We just made it 11 inches in width or length. And what I'm going to do now is I am leaving a little bit of space at the top so that I am over to pull the vinyl over the rim of the mug and also over the bottom edge of the mug so that I am able to cut smoothly. It does not have to be perfect because we will be exposing some stainless steel on both tumblers just to make sure that we have a very good seal. I just use a pencil to make my markings on this vinyl, so you can use a marker if you'd like, but I know it's not very visible on the video, but I can clearly see my markings, and what I do then is just cut it out. I am also going to cut out the little pieces where I stenciled that the handle would go. And I always recommend cutting a little bit at a time. You don't want to cut too much off of the handles because then you can't put that back and you don't want any white space underneath. So once you cut everything out, you want to take your vinyl and just wrap it around your mug just to make sure that we cut it the right size. This overlaps just a bit, and the way I like to apply my vinyl to the 12-ounce morning mug and the 16-ounce travel mug is by taking the backing off of the back side of the mug so that that part of my vinyl goes down first, and then the front part of the vinyl, which is also the front part of my mug, will overlay and overlap over the back part of it. That's just my personal preference, but if you want to do it the other way, that's totally up to you. I'm just going to cut off a little bit of the backing here just so I place it down on my mug, but I'm not going to commit yet, and by that I mean I pull and tug to make sure that it's going to line up, and sometimes it does line up perfectly and other times it doesn't, but I'm just going to use a squeegee to allow my vinyl to just roll off the backing smoothly to avoid air bubbles. We will get some air bubbles underneath the vinyl, but I just go back with a weeding pin and kind of just poke them out and let them out so that you can't tell under epoxy that you had air bubbles there to begin with. One thing I'd like to mention about the vinyl is you will notice me kind of pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down. The vinyl that I use from North 80 has a lot of pull and tug to it, so I am able to do that without ripping it or stretching it. It is one of my favorite vinyls that I've ever used for that reason, because I tend to be very heavy-handed with my projects, so don't be afraid to pull on it. You won't rip it. It is very forgiving when it comes to that. Once I have the vinyl basically where I'd like it or where I'm happy with it, I begin to pull and tug on the bottom of the mug as well as the bottom edge so that I can cut a very smooth and clean line with using my box cutter. I prefer the box cutter that I purchased from Dollar Tree. They come 3 in a pack for $1.25 now, but I've found that they work better for me than an X-Acto knife. You just have to be very careful and make sure that you lock it in place so that you don't slice your fingers off, because it is very, very, very sharp. But it is like the tool that gives me the cleanest cut, so I prefer to use it. Once I get the excess vinyl off the top and the bottom of my mug, I am going to go in with this electrical tape to be able to get another clean line and cut my vinyl off. Normally I would leave the vinyl over the bottom and just go in with my box cutter knife and give it a clean circle. However, I did not leave enough room for me to be able to do that at the bottom. As you can see, the vinyl it barely reached that inner line that this mug has at the bottom. So that's why I took some electrical tape to cut out the bottom of the vinyl, on the bottom of the cup I mean, to give me a clean line. The next thing that I do is go back in with my squeegee a little bit, just to make sure that the middle part where the vinyl is meeting in the middle, right underneath the handle of this mug, is laying flat. Now I do have a little bit of excess spilling over onto the handle, on the top portion of the handle as well as the bottom, but I just take my box cutter knife here and I just cut out whatever excess is there. It's best if you do it in one smooth motion instead of picking it up and putting it down, because it might pick up your vinyl if you do that. After I'm finished with that, what I am doing now is just covering up the vinyl to protect it around the handle, so that when I use Mod Podge to apply the glitter that I'm going to use for the handle and the bottom of the mug, I don't accidentally place glitter or spill Mod Podge in places where I don't want it on this vinyl. So that's why I'm covering it with with electrical tape, and so that I won't get glitter where I don't want it. We are going to do the same exact thing with a 16-ounce travel mug using the 16-ounce travel mug template. This is the original template that Nikki has on the website for the mug. And we'll be using the transparent leopard spot, cheetah spot vinyl that you see here. I'm going to do the same thing, trace over it, cut it out, leave a little bit of excess at the top and the bottom so that you can get a clean, smooth line at the top of the cup, as well as the curved middle of the 16-ounce travel mug. So unlike the 12-ounce morning mug, we started with a blank canvas. The 16-ounce travel mug, I had spray painted pastel colors and then applied my glitter tack it method using Ice Diamonds from Glitz to Glam. I'll also have her glitter linked in the description as well. And then I had 2 coats of epoxy. The cup was completely smooth. So although this is transparent vinyl and it is very forgiving, you do want to have as smooth of a surface of a cup as you can for you not to be able to see any bumps and lumps underneath your transparent vinyl. I did speed this process up a little bit more than when I showed you the 12-ounce morning mug, only because we're doing the same exact thing, only with a different mug. But I removed the backing from the back side of the vinyl of the mug, and because I wanted the front side to overlay. And just like with the other mug, I want my front side to lay over just a little bit of the backing until I am ready to commit, and then use my squeegee to kind of guide and just very effortlessly remove the backing of the rest of the vinyl. I do end up pulling it up and moving it to my liking, And this vinyl is a lot more forgiving with the seam as well, the seam that goes right underneath where the handle where both sides meet, because since it's transparent, you can remove any of the spots that kind of just don't match up without it messing up the pattern. That is the great thing about transparent vinyl. You can't really do that with patterned vinyl, normal patterned vinyl, because you'll be able to tell if you took a chunk out that is missing and it belonged there. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the morning mug after I remove a couple pieces that I didn't really like right at the seam. And we're going to remove anything around the handle that doesn't belong there, and anything, well, not anything, but the overhang and the excess vinyl at the top of the rim. After we do that, I am taking this 1/4-inch tape that can be found in my Amazon store. I'll also link the direct link to this tape. It is a 1/4-inch masking tape, if you will, and I'm using it as a guide to cut the excess vinyl that I have here sitting on the actual curve of the cup. Now, if you don't want it sitting on the top of the curve of the cup, I would recommend just leaving more vinyl, so cutting it wider so that you can place your vinyl over the curve and you don't have to deal with it. But I'll be using very thin vinyl strips to place here. I'll be using 2 of them, so it doesn't really bother me that much, but just FYI, you don't have to do it that way. Once I remove the excess vinyl, I go right in to make sure that it's laying flat all the way around, and I can usually just feel it with my thumbs and fingers. And then I'm going to apply this 2-inch logo care card sticker that I put up on the bottom of all of my cups. You can also find these at North 80. She sells them, I don't really remember in what amounts, but I usually just get the 144 pack. I am using tech wrap vinyl here for the vinyl strips that I'm going to put at the bottom of my cup. One right at where I made that line with removing the excess vinyl, and one a little bit underneath. I like to put 2 of them instead of 1. The vinyl I am using, you can find it at Tech Wrap, and I do have a code that you can use. However, if you don't want to commit to buying a big roll of either 5 feet or 10 feet, Heidi over at North 80 does sell the Tech Wrap vinyl now. She carries it, and you can get it in 12 by 12 sheets. So you don't have to get the entire roll, especially if you don't know if you're going to like it or use it. But I usually just save the cuts and vinyl from when I make, I think, 1/2 inch vinyl, and I usually just cut them out in Design Space 1/2 inch by 11 in width. However, and then whatever is left in the middle is what I'm using here. So I'm not exactly sure what size this is. I know it's 11 in length, but I think the width has to be at least 0.15 of an inch, I think. Now we're back with the 12-ounce morning mug since we basically finished that 16-ounce travel mug, and I was very generous with the Mod Podge because it tends to dry very quickly. And then just take something heavy to tap the excess of that glitter off and remove your tape. You do want to wait until that glitter is completely dry, which is, depending, give or take where you are, 30, 40 minutes, if that. And then what I didn't record because I forgot was taking it outside to seal it. And I just used the Rust-Oleum 2x clear gloss spray, and I did 2 coats of it, waiting I think 10 to 15 minutes in between each coat. Then I let it completely dry before I brought both cups over to epoxy. I am now going to mix equal parts of Counterculture's medium viscosity, and I will be using this Twinkle holographic additive. It's like a microfine glitter from the Glitter Guy. I have used it for 3 years now, and I feel like it's just part of my epoxy process. Unless I'm making a matte tumbler, I add it to everything that I'm going to do. I do like to start kind of just pouring it onto my cup, pouring the epoxy that is, and then I would say that if you're working with a mug with a handle, to prevent making the handle part of any tumbler bulky and thick and round, unless that's the look you're going for, leave the handle for last. So do everything else. I do like to take my time with this. I don't rush the process of epoxy just because it'll make your life easier as you add on coats. But basically, you'll see me add epoxy to both cups, and I leave the handle for last on each. And I'm okay with having to do another layer of epoxy on top of this just because the vinyl is fresh to the right, the pattern vinyl, and these vinyl strips, the holographic strips of vinyl that I placed on the 16-ounce travel mug that you see me working on here, those are not going to be completely covered under one coat of epoxy, and even if they were, I am so just going to have more of a peace of mind knowing that I did 2 coats of epoxy. I then, after this, am going to add the composition notebook decal, but in order to do that and to prevent from anything on the cup being bumpy or anything like that, I am going to make sure that they are as smooth as can be. So if you have to go for a 3rd coat of epoxy before decals, it has happened. It's happened to me. Just make it a very thin coat, especially just because we don't want a very thick mug in the end. So for the composition notebook part, I usually do this on white sticker paper. However, lately I've been doing it on holographic sticker paper. I know Cricut has some that you can purchase from Michaels. However, I ordered mine off of Amazon, and you will find it linked in the description of the video as well. But basically, I try to make the most out of my sticker paper when printing from Design Space. And to be honest, I really don't know why I still do it this way. I still print from Design Space because I end up hand cutting it anyway, just because my Cricut, I do have the Maker 3, but it just doesn't always cut the composition notebook decals exactly how it's supposed to. So I rather hand cut them myself. But you could just do the same thing in Word or Google Doc. You don't have to go into Design Space. I think it's just because I already have them here. I just think it's easier for me. The sizing of the composition notebook decal is going to be totally up to you. Mine is usually 3 inches wide by about 2 inches in height. And that's just what I use universally for all of my cups. Doesn't matter what size cup I'm using. I do know that Heidi over at North 80 just announced that she will be having these composition notebook stickers for you guys to be able to purchase them, because I reached out to her and I was like, I'm honestly so tired of having to print and cut and then seal my sticker paper, because if not, I will rub the ink off of it when I'm being too rough or whatever. And I do have an inkjet printer, so I kind of just asked her if that was possible, and she was like, yeah, totally. So those are available for you to purchase, and I'll have a link for those in the description of the video as well. So what I'm doing now is just feeling the bottom of my cup, making sure that it's smooth, and if it's not, I'm going to use this sanding block to smooth any bumps out, as well as give my cups a good clear, well, not clear because it's not clear, but expose some stainless steel at the top of the rim of my cups to be able to give this a good seal with my last couple of layers of epoxy. Now the sanding block, I like to use a lower number, so 40, 60, just because it is easier to expose that stainless steel. It requires less elbow grease, if you will, and also I do prefer to do these outside with my Dremel, but I didn't feel like taking the whole setup outside and recording outside. I think it's just quicker and faster, but a sanding block will also do. You can absolutely get a good line of exposed stainless steel to seal your tumblers with just a sanding block. And here I'm just trying to show you what the final look of that sanding the rim looks like. Sometimes the line is a lot thinner and sometimes it's a lot, well, not a lot thicker, but a little bit more than this. So it just depends, to be honest. And do make sure to, if you're sanding inside, that you're wearing still your respirator. And that you have a little bit, I have some parchment paper down there that's catching all of the particles and stuff, so that the cleanup process of this just goes a lot smoother. I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the 16-ounce travel mug on this 12-ounce morning mug. So this one did feel a little bit more bumpy on the body of the cup, on the front and the back. So I am going to take the same sanding block and just sand in those specific areas, as well as the bottom of the cup, because we did put glitter at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of just feel it out and lightly sand around that bottom edge of the cup just to get it as smooth as I can without going into and either sanding too hard and removing my glitter or anything of the sort. And then I'm going to clean these cups with 91% alcohol, or you can go wash them as well, to place your decals and give it its final epoxy layers before the cup is finished. I will say that even if you decide to go and wash your cup with Dawn soap and water and then dry with paper towels, it really does help if you just wipe the surface where the decal is going with 91% alcohol. It just helps it adhere so much better. But once I'm finished with this step, I'm going to go ahead and add my logo with the care instructions, the tumbler care instructions at the bottom of the cup, the 2-inch sticker that I place on all of my cups. I did used to get them from Sticker Mule, and I used to just get the 2-inch ones, but Heidi over at North 80 was like, you know, I can make those, right? And I didn't know. So now I purchased them from her. They're a lot better quality in my opinion, and a lot more affordable as well. So I have begun cutting my composition notebook decals. This is on holographic sticker paper. It is listed in the description of the video, but you can find it on Amazon. I think Silhouette also carries a similar paper. But basically, I did print these out like I showed you at the beginning of the video through Design Space, but I hand cut them. I do hand cut them with the bleed on, which is why you see that the outline of this decal is a lot thicker than it was in the graphic on Design Space. The reason I do that is because I hand cut them. So there's less room for error. If I accidentally cut a little bit too in the inner line, you can't really notice because it's still black all the way around. But just Design Space just never cuts these how I want them to, so I hand cut them. I hand cut all my decals, but I won't have to anymore because, again, Heidi is a rock star, and I asked her if she could make, just like the logos that go on the bottom of your cups, if she could make these into stickers, and she was like, yes, I totally can. So they will be in the black and white. They will not be this holographic type looking sticker, but they will be in the white, and I won't have to print, I won't have to seal, and I won't have to hand cut them anymore. So I'm excited about that. Once I had stickers exactly where I wanted them, I went ahead and did my last 2 coats of epoxy. Then I used my torch to get rid of any bubbles that might have gone up to the surface. And after this, we're just going to clean our cups and you'll get to see the final look. So after my cups have had their final layers of epoxy, the way I clean my cups right before I package them up and send them off is by making sure that the rim has no excess epoxy spilling over it or inside of the cup, and I do so by using this box cutter that to me works better than an X-Acto knife. You can find them in a 3-pack for $1.25 now at the Dollar Tree. I swear by them, I love them. And then take a paper towel and acetone and clean the inside of the cup, remove any spillage of spray paint or any other kind of residue that's inside of the cup so that it is completely clean inside right before I take them to the sink and wash them with some Dawn dish soap and water and dry them with some paper towels. And this is the final look of the tumblers. I do apologize for the greenish hue. I'm outside underneath a tarp because it is way too hot in Texas, but that wasn't going to stop me from coming outside and trying to show you what they look like in natural sunlight. I am absolutely in love with them, and I can't wait for my friend Evelyn to see it, and I hope you guys love them as well.